We're going to look at Article 5 and Article 7 in this video. Article 5 is about the amendment process, and so please feel free to take your Constitution and make notes on this and mark it up. So there are 4 ways to amend the Constitution, and once again, all 4 of those ways are outlined in Article 5. So the first thing it says is that the Congress, so we need the House and Senate here, whenever 2/3 of both the House and Senate find it necessary to propose an amendment. So it takes 2/3 of both the House and the Senate to make a proposal to an amendment to this Constitution. And that is the most common way. I think it's actually the only way we've ever seen it done. Or you can have, if the legislatures of 2/3 of the states want to call a convention for the purpose of amending the Constitution, then the states can also jumpstart this process. But what I just want you to know is that the convention is going to take place at the national level. So regardless of whether we're having 2/3 of both the House or the Senate or 2/3 of the states call a national convention, the national government has to propose an amendment, and it takes 2/3 of both houses to propose an amendment. And then coming down here, let's see, when ratified, so proposing takes place at the national level. Congress is going to propose. When we're ratifying this and formally approving it, the legislature of 3/4 of the states, it takes 3/4 of the states. So once the national government has proposed an amendment, 2/3 of Congress have proposed an amendment, then we're going to send it to the states. And it's going to take 3/4 of the states, whether it's sending it to the state legislature for them to do it, or whether they call a convention for that particular purpose. So all of that is right in here, talking about the 2/3 of the House and the Senate to propose, and then 3/4 of the states to ratify or formally approve that. Then it goes on to say no amendment which will be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses of the 9th section of the first article. And I know they're saying that in a weird way, but we've talked about the fact that you could not deal with, or nothing could be done to outlaw the slave trade until 1808, and that's what it's saying here. You cannot, before 1808, change Article 1, Section 9. The first clause talks about the slave trade and not being able to touch until 1808. So obviously that period of time has come and gone. We did away with the slave trade, obviously, and slavery is also done away with. So the only thing that we are looking at now that is still in effect that you can never change about the Constitution is that no state, without its consent, shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. So we are always going to maintain a federal government because the states are always going to be allowed to send representation. So we're going to have that Article 4, Section 4, Republican form of government guaranteed, because we're going to make sure that the one thing we can never take away from the states is equal suffrage. Every state will always have equal representation in the Senate, and those small states really, really liked that when they were deciding whether to ratify the Constitution. And so you see this term ratified in Article 5 because we're talking about formally approving an amendment. When we get down to Article 7, we're talking about ratifying the Constitution. And it says, and notice it's very, very short, the ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution. So they wrote Articles 1 through 6, and then they're saying, okay, now what do we have to do to formally approve this new document that we have created? And so they're saying, once we get 9 states, that'll be sufficient to make sure this Constitution goes into effect. And there's some other stuff that you already know about this. We reached the level of 9 and we still don't have the support of Virginia and New York. And the Founding Fathers really felt that 9 was sufficient to get the other ones to join on board. And that by saying 9, you're actually going to get all 13 of them to ratify. And obviously, we eventually do get all 13 to ratify.